Greetings out there in YouTube land. This is Morrisman, and as always, I thank you guys for coming to my channel. I want to give this video two different titles, but I'm going to give it one, but I'm going to tell you what the two titles are. The first one is I'm going to be re-releasing my first two CD releases, or actually it was an album back then when I recorded these. I came across the masters and I got clearance through the record company I went through to record these, that I can remaster them. Well, I won't say remaster, reissue them. So those will be available next week. And the price for it should be $15 and then about $4 shipping and handling. I think there's about 10 songs on each of these particular CD releases. I wrote all the songs. Actually, I played all the instrumentation because most of the time when I do my recordings, I play more piano on my compositions than I do guitar. And one might ask, why? I love the piano. I mean, I wish I was a piano player, because you could do so much on keyboards, and I just like the sound, and it's easier to record keyboard than it is guitar. Because the hardest things to record to me is bass, because you got to get that low frequency. You got to compress the hell out of your bass stuff so it can cut through the mix and still is too hot on top of the mix or buried in the bottom. And then the drums, you got to mic them up, and sometimes you don't mic them up right, sound like you're beating on pots and pans. So, it's just easier to play keyboard synthesizer. You have to worry about none of that stuff. So I'll post another video when these are available for sale, because I look back on some of the early stuff, and I'm more fond of the early stuff for this simple reason. We were younger, we were hungry. Everybody that I ran with were, we were in our 20s at the time, trying to get a record deal, writing songs, going back and forth either of the studios. I miss those days. As you get older, you kind of get settled in, and things are not the same. Things are different than they were. But I remember that period when everybody was hungry, and we were just working our full-time jobs and playing at night, and getting back up after 2 hours of work or sleep, and then going back to work, then go back in the studio at night and playing in the clubs. Those were some great times, and then we got older, we got families, and kind of had to slow it down. But I listened to some of that stuff with just a smile, just touched my heart to say, man, I remember that era. Mama was still alive, and I would, what you think of this, Mama? And she said, that sound good, baby. Miss those days. But part two, or should I say the other title I was going to give this video is this. And it's a perfect lead in from that story. I was working on the new CD. And I'm saying to myself, I'm working with the state-of-the-art stuff, digital recording, and it sounds clean and real crisp. And I'm like, something is missing. And I couldn't put my finger on it until I went and found those masters. And I'm listening to the masters from the stuff I did in the early 90s. I'm like, okay, now I know what's missing. That analog feel. It doesn't feel like analog. Because with analog, you can hear, because I'm listening to all the stuff that I did on those two albums, and I can distinctly hear everything. I can hear the guitars in the right, pan to the right, the picking one on the left. I can hear the synthesizer somewhere up in the 12 o'clock stereo spectrum. Everything is clear, and the word I want to use is headroom. Now, for you young people, you probably don't know what that is. Headroom is this, that you can distinctly hear everything in the mix. There's nothing battling each other. There's nothing buried in there that you can't hear. There's nothing that's overriding or overpowering another instrument. Because I'm listening to, again, the old stuff that I did, back in the 90s, and I can hear everything. I can hear the guitar parts I did on the right ear, real clean, real distinctive. I can hear the other guitar rhythm stroking in the other ear. I can hear all these synth lines. I can hear the keyboard. I can hear the drums. The bass got bottom. So I said to myself, I'm about to do a 360, because just about everything I've done so far, pertaining to my CD, I'm going to most likely scrap it, which I didn't spend thousands of dollars to do, and bring in musicians and go back to analog. Because I'm like, I'm not really feeling this. It's like something is not, making me like, yeah, let me hear that again. Because whenever I do something that sounds good to me, I sit in one sitting and listen to it about 20, 30 times and hadn't gotten tired of it. And I'm like, I'm not getting that feeling. I'm like, the songs are strong songs like the ones I wrote back in that era. It's just that something's missing, and that's what it is. It's that damn analog. Analog just have a warmer feel to it than digital. Digital to me is just not personal. It's just real clean and precise. Cause I like my stuff kind of dirty, kind of not perfect. Cause I remember when we started to do the sequencing thing. I had the keyboard players were not happy because they're like, I want to play my part straight through like we used to do. Instead of I play one part, then I stop, and then we quantize, and it's real perfect. It's real. It's still it loses that human feel. Because one of my keyboard players gave a good example of that. He said the Woody Woodpecker show, the theme song, he said when they first did it, it was done, with real musicians or musicians that played straight through. And he said the new versions, and it was real precise and real robotic. It lost that human feel and that slight margin of error because none of us are perfect on this planet. So I totally can relate to that now because I'm like, what is missing here? Because I'm like, am I losing the love and passion to write and perform? No. So something's missing. And when I pull out and found those masters and listen to them, I'm like, okay, yeah, I know what's missing. That analog feeling, that extra headroom where you can hear everything, and it just had a sense of warmth to it, and just a sense of warmth that the digital stuff don't. Now, the digital stuff is more clear or clean, but it's not warm, and the headroom is not there, So I thought I would post this video, thinking that you guys, or hoping you guys found this interesting, because the things that I try to share on my channel is things that you can't find, or it's hard to find. It's hard to find music attorneys. It's hard to find out what route you take to produce, what route you take to write, what route you take to pen your songs on artists. Because there's no really place, well, now with the internet you get that help, but when we started, back in the 80s, there was no internet. It's like we had to go physically find these people, find music attorneys, find other people that can help us with the recording process, find other people that help us with promoting, find other people that can help us with things that, we struggling with as far as production. Because the very first person that influenced me as far as drum programming is a guy that lived down the street from me. His name is Steve. And Steve was a professional in his teenage years. He was touring with Slave, and, he was nice enough and down to earth enough to say, man, I'll play it your way. And I was like, man, he flew in from California and he played in our banquet, I played guitar, and my high school buddy, my bass player, played bass, and my brother-in-law played piano. So that was a really memorable experience, and it's nice to know that he's still humble to say, I'm all this and I can't do this for you. And he's like, no, I'm gonna fly in and play, because we go back, teenage years. So how I learned to do what I do as far as arranging and producing is I hung around guys that did it, because when I was actually playing in the band with Steve for a moment, and I learned a lot from him in that short period of time, because this is how he did it. The band had two different rehearsals. One rehearsal would be just for the musicians, and then one would be for the singers, in different places or different days. They would not be there in the same time. I'm like, that's interesting. And I sat in on both of them. And he started to do production for rappers, and shortly thereafter, I started to do production for rappers too. And the very first rap group that I produced, we got a record contract or record deal. And I just thought about this. The same group that I worked with was the same group that Steve worked with first. And Steve let me hear some of this drum programming that he did for this rap stuff. And I was like, whoa. And I'm sitting there looking at, because he had the RX-7, I think, the Yamaha. And it was programmed, because at that point I was just, I'm going to put in a 4-bar drum beat and sit back and call it a day. And this Steve's like, no, I'm going to set it up where it's like a drummer playing, where it's a program, it's just, as opposed to a pattern. So I learned quickly, right out of the gate, write a program and not just a pattern. Now, sometimes there's songs that just warrant a pattern. It's like, okay, we ain't going to overdo this. But most of them, it's like, I want to be able to let you guys know from the program that, you know, the indication, okay, we're coming out of the verse, here's the chorus, you know, and how that signified is by a tom-tom roll or crash or some type of crescendo, and still again just a straight beat 5 straight minutes through, and there's no indication of what's coming up, you know. And unfortunately, these new era of music have gotten away from that, because the guys that program drums now are not drummers. Back in the day, the guys that programmed drums were drummers. You know, the guys that designed drums back in the day, Alesis, they were drummers. The guys that designed the drum machines of today, the Beat Thing, Street Box, and another one, I forgot. They're not drummers. You can tell, because I'm going to say this in this video, because I was going to do a whole nother video on this, but since I'm on this topic, and anybody that knows the reason why this is, please leave me a comment. On most of the new drum machines now, they got what's called tap tempo. And when you hit that thing, say for instance you got a tempo of 75 going in your song, and when you hit that thing, it jumps from 75 to about 90, or it jumps from 70 to about 40. And my question is, what the fuck is the purpose of that? You know, when you're writing a song, you're not playing in different tempos. You know, usually it's the same tempo with maybe some crescendo or breakdown. So I'm like, what is the purpose of this little fucking button? You know, because on some of the drum machines now, because with the old drum machines, you can go into the menu and find tempo and adjust it. Okay, it's at 70. I want to kind of bump it up to 75, or to take it down. The new drum machines, they don't have that. They got this tap tempo shit. I'm like, who's changing tempo in the middle of the song? Now I'm assuming, and it's just an assumption, and please, if anybody know, leave me a comment, that it's done for live DJ things. These drum machines now are more geared towards DJs than musicians and drummers, you know. And what I'm doing now in the process of recording my CD is I had to actually dig out some of my old drum machines and MIDI them up and grab the sounds out of the new drum machines and just MIDI them up and program it through my old drum machines, because the way that the Street Box is set up and the Beat Thing and the Kai XR20, I believe, it's real messed up. It's like you can't even put together a chain of patterns, which by definition is now called a drum program. You know, I don't even think Street Box allow you to do it. The way Street Box is set up is you can set up to have different patterns on each pad, and when you hit the pad, it'll play that pattern. And you hit the pad, I'm like, I want to program it and then sit back because I'm done. And still, I'm doing this shit live on the fly. Because again, I think that's designed for live DJ performances. It's not designed for musicians. But I'll talk about that more in detail in another video and give you some examples, some live examples of the issues with today's drum machine versus the old drum machines. But until next time, take care. Thanks for watching.